Hello and welcome to another episode, this week's episode of the Kenyan Goodness Podcast with me, Omar Bashir and Ahmed Wanafa. Ahmed, good evening to you.
Evening to you, Omar. I don't know about the good part, but
Well, yeah, I guess so. I don't know. We're thankful for our health. I think very important to start with,
yes,
and
yes.
amongst other things,
Mhm.
certainly not Arsenal for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a disappointing weekend on our side, the Arsenal side. So
What are you
yeah,
talking about? I mean, we just beat Bristol City 4-0. So,
yes, sure, we did do that, but looking on the men's side of things, that was disappointing.
yeah, nobody watches those matches anyways. So, well, we just might as well get into it. Arsenal played on Saturday at the Emirates against Liverpool, the defending champions. 3-0 attended to the visitors. Goals from Diogo Jota and Mohamed Salah. But in all truth, it could have been much, much more for Liverpool. Um, quite tepid, quite languid, and quite limp performance from Arsenal on the day. I don't know where do you want us to begin with that?
I mean, we can just do the usual. We start with the lineup. Um, what you thought rather of the lineup, and uh, yeah, and we kick on from there.
Well,
Unlike our
lineups.
team,
Well, lineups. I should have had it here with me, but I'm going to try and remember it. Would you agree with that lineup? I mean, before kickoff.
actually, before kickoff, yes. Okay. It seemed somewhat okay because we know we had the small injuries to the key
Hmm.
players, and Shaka was, I don't know whether he was ill or he was being rested or something, but it was necessary anyway. Um, yeah, so all in all, I think it was a fair lineup. There were talks of Aubameyang starting on the left, Lacazette starting up front, which was wrong maybe for this team. But then, who else do you put? Do you put William? Do you put Martinelli? I think in this case, Arteta went for the safe option, what he knows, and it might have been wrong, but I can understand what he thought would have been right. Even the thing with Ceballos, the idea of Ceballos starting in that midfield
Mm.
in front of maybe El Neni is that he could be a bit more mobile, a bit more press resistant, and that's the idea of him anyway. Whether it works or not is a separate issue, but that's the
Mhm.
idea. Yeah, and from that, I could understand the lineup. Again, Luis also was injured, so we could understand him being out, Holding coming in for him, which was um, so. Yeah, it wasn't our best lineup, but it was the lineup that we got, and it was fair before kickoff. That's what I think.
Well, I think obviously I had issues with Ceballos with his performance, and we'll get to that. But I feel that
Mm.
the main issues with the lineup was starting both Lacazette and Aubameyang. I think with the way that we've developed and the balance of the team in such an important game, he himself said that we have to be 100% all the time. And I think we can clearly say, I think for this season in particular, I think Aubameyang on the left hasn't worked. People have sort of worked him out from that position, and it's easier for them to pick them up, especially now that when he's not on form and his confidence is a bit on the rocks. So I feel it would be counterintuitive, I think, shall we say, considering how he performed the last game that we played against West Ham as well, where he did play, well, at least the second half on the left. I felt that it would have been more prudent to have somebody with a bit more technical ability who can carry the ball in those situations, relieve that sort of pressure. I mean, Aubameyang himself is a low touch player. And I mean, he's not bad in terms of his technical ability, but he's certainly not amongst the best in the team. And I felt that he's a player that is best served in the final third, in the dangerous situations in and around the 18-yard
Yes,
box. And
Omar.
I felt that we didn't really have uh, a way to get him higher up. So I think it sort of it made him redundant because I think
Yeah, but Omar, who is that player who could have replaced him in that lineup yesterday? You can't tell me Willian, and Martinelli is okay. Martinelli is more energetic, is presses more and works a lot harder, but he is not that technical player that you want. He's not.
mhm.
He's not. They're quite similar actually in their profiles. Him and Aubameyang. So who would you have started in that position then on the left?
Well, I will get flack for this, but I would
That's
have.
what I'm saying.
Well, listen, I will get flack, but I would have played Willian in that
Uh,
position. Yes, hear me out, because I think he gives
mm,
you that technical security. I would have played
mm,
Aubameyang in that. If I was going to play Aubameyang, I would have played him at the center forward, because I think in that center forward position we've got players who are untested and, quite frankly, not good enough, in my opinion, from what I've seen from them. And I think there was an opportunity there more than Trent Alexander-Arnold, bring him progressing up front and whatever. I think the opportunity was in the middle of the park in terms of the defensive centre back pairing, and we didn't
mm,
really work them out at all. That could have come about by Liverpool's counter press, which I felt was very, very good on the day. We couldn't really get anything on the ball. Their counter press was excellent, and maybe that inadvertently affected our ability to attack them through the middle. However, I feel that we should have stretched them more. I think there was opportunity there to, I mean, there's the thought of Willian. I mean, what I would have done, I would have put either Willian or Martinelli. I think Willian because of the technical security, and then Martinelli because of his spontaneous attacking threat. He does have a bit of pace about him, and having Martinelli and Aubameyang bringing that pace in behind, especially, would give something maybe for Trent Alexander to think about, and would give as well the centre back something to think about. Perhaps maybe stretch that back four, because we saw during the game the the ball over the top was on, and it did happen quite a few moments. I think Thomas Partey tried that pass a bit to Aubameyang. So I feel that if you'd have had two players of that similar ilk with the ability to run in behind that defense, rather than a player in Lacazette who needs to get the ball into touch and into play, especially with Liverpool's counter press system, I think it was sort of counterintuitive from Arteta. But again, I do see your position. I think Arteta, looking at that fixture. I mean, sorry, looking at that lineup, I think we sort of took of what he knew in terms of Arteta on the left, Laka in the middle, um, and maybe the idea of Ceballos in that central midfield role. The idea was all about it, but I think the idea needs to be laced with practicality and recency in terms of player performances and abilities of players that you have on the bench. And I felt that that was sort of counterintuitive. I mean, we saw El Neni come on the 60th minute, around something there. And
yes.
that sub is not something that came out spontaneously. I mean, that was a substitution that probably was thought of even before halftime. So you could
Yeah.
tell that it was a selection that went wrong, because we've talked about Ceballos and his mistakes in the Europa League. Both have come from most of them rather, have come from pressing situations where he has found himself unable to withstand the press. Maybe the Ceballos of last year could have, but I think this year he's suffered a bit of a dip in form, and and against the best pressing team in the world, why would then suddenly Ceballos, who is out of form, suddenly find form? I think that doesn't make sense. You do say the right thing that he, in theory, on paper, makes sense. But I think practically looking at the recency in terms of his form, it didn't make sense to have him in the team. And I felt
Yeah,
those were the issues. But I think the Ceballos issue came about more as the game played on. I think once we saw like 5-10 minutes of the game, we're like, oh yeah, this is not working. But I think for me, the one thing that I looked at, it wasn't as pressing, but I think it was sort of like at the back of my mind was the Aubameyang and the Lacazette thing. I think at
mm,
this point in time, we sort of need more technical security in that area, or something different than having the two of them playing at once. I think having them both play unbalances your team, and I felt
yeah,
that we
but
sort of suffered from that.
yeah, you brought about two interesting points with the Liverpool press being very, very strong, and as well the technical security that some of our other players might offer. So I'd start with the Liverpool press. Do you think maybe okay, let me phrase it another way. Um, Maybe as a statement. That Liverpool press was so intense, such that we were um, due to our own inability, I would say, to pass the ball just a bit faster, just move the ball a bit quicker, do something with a little bit more intensity. Our failure to do that also enabled the Liverpool press, and therefore there was uh, this disconnect that we had been seeing that earlier in the season, where we could not progress forward, and it's just maybe hopeful long balls to Aubameyang or to Pepe, or even to Lacazette maybe, or just clearing the ball forward with no hope for anything else, and we were just constantly under pressure, and then because of that, I'd say because of that, also our opponents, I mean our strikers, our forward line had no ability whatsoever, and they had uh, maybe not no ability, but they could not get the ball in decent positions and use it well. You'd see the likes of Odegaard. He was pressed all the time by like three or four players, always on him. And whereas when Liverpool attack, it was just maybe one player who would go to press the Liverpool player, and he's easily bypassed. There was that difference in the intensity, which resulted maybe in a disjointed um uh, performance going forward, which is what we used to see further back, earlier in the season, rather. And then the technical players that we needed that were missing, well, they were missing. And uh, you mentioned Willian and Martinelli, but again, I I don't think they would have made that much difference, given that it was mostly from our performance, like at the back, us being unable to progress the ball forward. Because even if it is Martinelli, sure, he can do something. He's very spontaneous, yes, but he's going to get maybe just one chance, and and it's very hard that he will score, because even with the experienced players, they did get like two chances, and that's all they got, and it was very difficult for them. And that's what it was mainly. It was our performance at the back influencing our performance at the front, and it was all very extremely disjointed. So the lineup again, from the start, I don't think there was that much wrong with it, but the performance now itself, now on the pitch, when you look at it on paper and what came on the pitch, it was very bad. And I think Arteta raised his hand, to be fair to him, and he said he got it wrong, sure. Whether it was the tactics, whether it was but I feel like the players also need to stand up and say that they did not do they did not do anything right. I feel like they had too many mistakes. They had it was an apathetic performance. Like it was just you said tepid, and it was, yeah, that's maybe the right word. It was completely off yesterday. I mean, day before yesterday, and I think maybe now we can start talking about the performances of the players themselves now.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a good point that we had problems in terms of progression of the ball in towards the middle and the final thirds of the pitch, and that more or less is come about by the midfield. Now, Thomas Partey did what he could, but then again, people are now aware of his ability and what he can do on the ball. And Liverpool, being Liverpool, targeted in terms of his press. Ceballos, we know, is a high touch player. And probably, actually, if you think about it, even on paper, I mean, Ceballos is quite an interesting player because, as we talked about it, I mean, in theory, he would have been good to have played in this match. But again, also in theory, he's actually one of the worst players you could put him in this Liverpool team because he's a player who likes to take 5, 6 touches before he releases the ball. He's very slow. He's not athletic. He cannot cover the ground well. And against a Liverpool is the absolute opposite of that. And it's sort of like counterintuitive to have him in the team. And unfortunately for us, that side of his game was very much apparent, and he could not find anybody with his passing. Not to berate the player or anything, and it's not something that I feel against him, but I just feel that the way this team has progressed and where we are trying to be, I don't think Danny Ceballos is the sort of player that we can have in the team. I think maybe you have him in the team if you've won the game 3-4-0 and you want to keep the ball, then you bring on Danny Ceballos. I think for me, that's the only way I see how he is important or how he's at least helpful in the team. And we just didn't see that as well. There was a lot of misplaced passing as well from the defenders. Ability-wise, I think you'll have to point at Rob Holding. We've talked about how he's improved this season in terms of his passing, but I think as well, if you're going to against Liverpool, with the way that they press, you need to be absolutely perfect, and he certainly wasn't that. And it's not because that he could be better; it's just the way he is. So that again brings about the discussion: why did we offer him a contract? If where we want to go, he's not up to the level. I mean, we're talking about people like Hector Bellerin in terms of where we want to be. Does he give us enough performances? There's certainly a discussion about it online. And and probably the same sort of discussion should have been put on Rob Holding. I mean, he's a very good defender, make no mistake about that, but we are not going to be a team that's going to be defending, for 60, 70 minutes of the game. We want to be a team where we'll be dominating, having the ball, lots of the ball, trying to create avenues of passing and chance creation from the back to the front line. And you need good passes of the ball throughout the team. And I don't think, I mean, let's put it this way. I don't think if we had, if we have signed him on as a squad player, let's say, for example, our first choice center back, who might be good on the ball, is injured. For example, like exactly the exact same situation where we have with David Luiz, who is injured, and he's come on against Liverpool, a big team, right? He hasn't helped us. Okay. And the purpose of a squad is for the player might not be as good admittedly, but the fundamentals of how you want to play football should be in and amongst that person's playing ability. And I think the weakest point of Rob Holding's ability is his passing. And that's what we want to focus on in terms of our progression. So I feel him signing a contract is strange. I mean, why do you want to do that? I mean, having said that, we have a right centre back who is on loan somewhere else, who I think would have had a better game in terms of progressing the ball into those dangerous areas than Rob Holding did against Liverpool. But for some reason or another, that whole situation is just muddled, and we don't know how that's going to turn out in the summer, which is going to be a very interesting period for us. And that whole dynamic, and we've not even spoken about Granit Xhaka. I mean, he's a person who divides opinion greatly at the club. I am certainly a big fan of his, um, and his passing ability. We always talk about it like, okay, fine, he makes predictable passes, but it's his passing that allows the likes of Martin Odegaard, the likes of Smith Rowe and Saka and Pepe to have the sort of performances that they have been having since January at least. And I feel that his missing from that midfield is why we're discussing about Ceballos and his inability, and El Neni and his inability. Granit Xhaka has become extremely important for us, and that is a problem because we know Granit Xhaka has his limitations, and for him to be so important for us, I think is an issue. And central midfield is an area that we need to seriously look at in the summer. We need to bring somebody who can be able to make us improve. Bringing on Danny Ceballos is not an option. For whatever money that is, it's not an option. We need to find somebody who is going to help us in terms of where we want to be. We talked about the last podcast we discussed on squad squad management and how we want to grow as a squad. And I think as that certainly one of the positions where we need to certainly look at and see what sort of formation we want to play. Is it a 4-3-3? Is it a 4-2-3-1? This player, can he come on and then aid us in that position? If that player who is coming on, do we have players who can come on in his place on the bench? Because as we're seeing now, just look over at Manchester City. They have a squad of players of similar ilk. So it doesn't matter if Raheem Sterling is injured, Riyad Mahrez can come on, or Ferran Torres can come on. They have options. They have Bernardo Silva who can play. They have Gundogan. They have Rodri. They have Kevin De Bruyne. They have players, Phil Foden, players of similar ilk who can come and do the same job, even if somebody's injured. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne, who is arguably their most important player, was injured for a month. During that time, they went 21 games, a winning streak of 21 games. That's where we need to be. It shouldn't be like, okay, Smith Rowe is injured, suddenly we are crap. I think we should sort of start evolving from that and start to get used to having many good players in the team and not worry about who's going to start and who's not going to start.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair, but again, this is the squad we have now, and
Mm.
we all know we even talked about it in our last podcast where that this is a problem that they really have to solve in central midfield for in the coming transfer window. And we know that as hard a job as it is, we have to make something happen. And of course, Shaka being our second best midfield player at the moment is problematic, although he's a really good player, to be fair to him. But again, he shouldn't be our second best midfield player. And even after that, we need to have more than that. We have as many players as possible who can come in and do the roles properly. And that's a big issue we have in midfield, and it was brought about quite. It was a stark uh, eye opener, maybe of how bad it is in our midfield, how bad our midfield situation is at the moment, and this Liverpool game shows us where we are and where we need to be, maybe. And well, of course, we already knew a lot of that, but it was very apparent here. Um, yeah, and then the back line as well was. I feel you've covered a lot of that. It's problematic as well. With Luis being gone, we don't have another proper player coming in. We know Holding is a good defender, but against a side like Liverpool, we need better. We need like really good quality, and um, again, maybe Liverpool have a really bad backline at the moment. All the starting line defenders are out. Even their backups are out. They had to bring in new ones who are from I don't know where they're from. I know Kabak is from Schalke. The other one is a championship defender they got. We never even saw them because of the quality they have going forward from midfield and in attack. It's so much. Once you get the ball to the players in midfield and going forward, it's like that's all they need. And maybe we need to, of course, we need a better defense, but we also need the quality players in midfield and going forward, and we need to be uh, well balanced. And um, we did struggle throughout the match, and but we tried for a while to keep them at bay. And I felt like, although yeah, they missed a few chances in the first half, they could have scored, of course, but they didn't, and we were maybe riding our luck a bit. I felt like it would come to bite us in the ass if we don't react, and we did not react. We started a bit better in the second half, but again, it wasn't much. We only had like 2 minutes of going forward when was it Cedric who came on for the injured Tierney. He tried doing a few things on the left side, involving Aubameyang, involving Lacazette, but that wasn't sustained, and it was back to the pattern of the first half again. And we continued again, trying to ride our luck, trying to be compact a bit, not letting them have many efforts. But once they made the switch that they made, with Robertson coming off and Jota coming on, and now overloading that already crowded midfield that we couldn't cope with, and bringing in another extra player, I think that changed the dynamic completely. I think Klopp saw that maybe, and that we were not coping with that midfield as it was, and he brought another player to play in that midfield in Jota, who completely changed the game. We know he brings on a different dynamic. He's a live wire, and yeah, that's when we started. I think that's immediately he came on. I think it was 2 minutes later, and he scores the goal, and then another 5 minutes later or so, Salah gets another opening and he scores, and it's a complete mess from the moment Jota comes on, and we sort of broke down there.
Yeah, I feel. I think as well, it's important to note that because we've talked about a lot about technical issues and squad development and stuff like that, but I think it's very important to note that we had a bad performance because the players were very lethargic. They were very slow in whatever they were trying to do. I felt that from what I saw, they didn't want it as much as Liverpool wanted it. I think it'd be unfair to say they didn't want to win the game, but I think it was apparent that Liverpool wanted to win the game more, and they were more determined to put out a statement, more a game to win the game and make a statement that we want are taking control of our season right now. And this would have been a perfect moment for us to do so as well, with the sort of performances of the people above us, for us to win against Liverpool would have been a big statement, and maybe think, maybe people will not forget about Arsenal in whatever situation it is, whether it is the race for the Europa League or the Champions League. Personally, I never believed that we were ever going to get there. Yeah, my points on that, I think, are well clear on this podcast. But I feel that there was that opportunity, and Liverpool wanted it more. I mean, they won all the second balls, they were winning all the duels, they were faster across the ground, and we weren't. And I
Mm.
mean, we suffered for that. And the players need to look at themselves. Whatever the plan Mikel Arteta had, I think the players did not apply themselves properly. The application of the players was very, very poor.
Yeah, that's the crux of it, really. Our players were not in it at all, and I just kept thinking as I was watching, they've done a throwback session maybe to what we were before that Chelsea game that really changed our performance. And as we were talking in the previous podcast, we said that even though there are periods in games where we are bad, but we also see that a lot of it where we are good and where we actually play uh, proper football as we would like to see. And in this game, it was just completely a turnaround, and it was um, to me it's totally unacceptable because it throws away all the progress that we have been making. I feel because these players, even the ones who came on, they have had good performances recently. Aside from Ceballos, I can't. Poor guy. we've been we've been on him. But yeah, aside from Ceballos, these other players have worked recently, maybe form permitting or whatever. They have had good periods, and they know exactly what the manager wants. So to come into this game and we see none of that at all. Like, we cannot pass the ball from the back. Whenever we go long, it's just a hopeful prod of the ball, to whoever's there, whether they're there or not, they do not care. It was a complete shambles. And we I feel like there are a few players who tried applying themselves. Odegaard, poor guy, was chasing after the ball throughout. I feel really bad for him. He had no time on the ball. Whenever he gets the ball, he's isolated. Liverpool players are on him. It was, I feel like Odegaard actually was one player who was really trying. Partey, for a while, he would have some good touches in the first half, trying to get away from that Liverpool press. And to be fair, he did manage, but again, they were that stronger. You talk about this desire that they had to make a statement, um, and I feel like Liverpool just overpowered us because of that. I think uh, we did not apply ourselves to say, just to maybe recap on what you've said, um, and it was poor from us, to be fair. It was just poor, and there's no other way to put it. It's just unacceptable. The performances we have been having and the performance we had against Liverpool, it's just a complete turnaround, and I did not enjoy that at all. And we have to do better, especially with the games that are coming up now. The league maybe not so important now. It's kind of just there to maybe I would if we can move on from this game uh, just for a bit, maybe we can come back to it. But if we can improve our performances, especially starting on Thursday, and build on that and get to where we were before the West Ham game, and even the latter stage of the West Ham game, like that was good. So if we apply ourselves to that level and we continue the season as we were, it would be, I would say, it's not a successful season, but it would be a decent season by any standards. Um, of course, not the level that we want to be as Arsenal Football Club, but we all know our problems, and we've talked about perspective and all that. And this was Liverpool, and we should have done better, but we didn't, and that's out there now. But we still can do better, and I hope that somehow we just go back to the performances we've been having, not whatever was put out against Liverpool. And I think that should serve as our way forward, basically.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that Liverpool are a very good team. They've not had the best of seasons, but they're certainly better than us. I mean, there are a lot of teams that are quite better than us, and we've had an issue. I think our league form over the last 3-4 years has been abysmal. I think we've become a cup team, um, and that really needs to solve. We need to have, I think the league is something where, or somewhere where Arteta has not really got it yet, because I think in the league we are probably worse off than we were last year. I mean, last year we finished 8th. I don't think we're going to finish 8th this year. Um, I think that all stems from that period where we went 83 years without winning a game, because that the league, I mean, people talk about the league and how important it is and blah blah blah, you're first judged by the league and whatever that they say. And by all accounts, yes, because if you're a big team, especially a team with Arsenal's history, you should be able to have decent performances in the team, I mean, in the league. And we've certainly not done that. And I think we need to acknowledge that we aren't as good as we are in the league. And that's why I've always felt that, even in the beginning of the season, I felt that the Europa League was the best way that we would have gone to the Champions League, because we do not have the consistency, even in our best of times, as we have seen in games against West Ham, in games against Wolves, in games against, who are these people? Against Aston Villa. Even in our best of times, we are not consistent. And for you to get into the top four, you have to be consistently good over the course of a 38 game season. And we're not that. We are a cup team. We can win the off game. That once we play well, we can win the home game. Then the away game, we play badly, but we just, get through. That's the sort of team that we are. And since the beginning of the season, I felt this was the only way. And right now, it doesn't help that all the eggs are now in that basket. We do face a very tricky opponent. I think Slavia Prague, they've eliminated Leicester, who are better than us. They've eliminated them. They eliminated Rangers, who are the champions of the Scottish Championship. So, I mean, for them to get here, first of all, they are a good team, and they've gone through some pretty good teams as well. And we are sort of downplaying how good they are. And I think we need to go in that game with a lot of trepidation, with a lot of concern about how good they are, but that shouldn't be the forbearing feeling towards the game. I feel that however good they are or how good they have been, I think we should be going into that game feeling that we should be out there imposing our style on them and make them think about what they're doing rather than us. I think we need to show them respect, but not the sort of respect that Mikel Arteta sometimes gives to teams. We need to go out there. The first and most important thing is to impose our play, because we've had issues with how we start games, I think. And we cannot afford to have a bad 20 or 30 minutes against such a team. We need to be we need to go out there and put that game to bed. I think, where's the game? Are we playing home or away?
We're starting at the Emirates, I believe.
Yeah, so that even makes it more apparent. We need to defend well. I think a clean sheet would be nice, please. And and we sort of need to get this out of the system. We need to work on what the heck is going on with Aubameyang. You know, you cannot go from penthouse to basement so quickly. There's an issue there that needs to be resolved and needs to be resolved quick, because the future of the football club depends on him now playing well. Aubameyang playing well. We were crap last year and he
Yeah.
dragged us to the Europa League. If he gets any sort of semblance of form, with the likes of now with Martin Odegaard, with Smith Rowe, with Saka, with Pepe, who are having fairly decent seasons, we can win the Europa League.
Yeah.
So he needs to get his act straight. Everybody else now is contributing. I think now the problem is that he is the main man. He's not contributing. I'm sure he as well is wondering what's going on. But I think we need to sort that out really quickly, because, I mean, without the Champions League money, how do you invest in Martin Odegaard? How do you convince Martin Odegaard that you want him to come to the team? How do you convince the board to give you more money? How do you get that central midfielder that we've been talking about? You know, and there'll be more and more questions, and the project will become more and more difficult, and more pressure will come on Mikel Arteta, because that will Mikel Arteta's third season, his second full season, but it's his third season, and there will be pressure on him if you don't get into the Champions League. I mean, if you don't get any, I mean, because that's the Champions League is the only thing we have to play for, I think, at this moment in time. I don't think we're getting Europa League football, because the only way we can get Europa League football is via the league, and I don't think we're getting into sixth. So it's either Champions League or bust. And we have been here before, but I think now it's more important. It's more important than it was last year. Last year we were fighting to get into the Europa League, and it was sort of desperate. But I think there was some debates, like people were like, we don't really need to get into Europa League. I think the only reason why we wanted to get into the Europa League because of the financial implications, and that's fair enough. But in terms of footballing wise, we're like, I mean, getting off Europa League would help the team. It would. And I think now getting into Champions League will help the team, because it will improve the team. We need to start. I think we are at a point where, as a squad, we understand what the coach wants. But I think maybe it's about the application, the quality of players that we have. Now we need to go to the next step and get better players who can apply what what we're trying to do as a team. And I feel getting into Champions League, winning that Europa League, is extremely essential to what we need to do.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, and I think now the players definitely need to apply themselves more with whatever's coming, and the main priority now for everyone who's there should be the Europa League. Whether, of course, they have to say that they also focusing on the league, that they need results in the league, and sure, that's fair. We want to see Arsenal winning, but the main thing right now should be the Europa League. And you mentioned our opponents and how they have been good, and I actually said this, and we have the ability and we have the quality, but we just need to be better than we have been maybe against, because again, this is what's really frustrating. We have been improving. There has been a steady rise in our performances, whether it's shown in results or not. But even in games where we have lost, there have been some good performances, and our problem has been consistency. But we have and the periods of play where we were good were getting longer and longer. Like we were controlling the game for maybe 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and we have 30 minutes off. And it was clear that the trajectory of the graph was pointing upwards. And so to come to a game against Liverpool and all of that progress is thrown out the window, and you wonder what the heck is going on, because this is it's basically the whole playbook has been thrown away. Like these players did not apply themselves at all, and that's what worries me again now for the Slavia Prague game, because uh, these guys are good. They have beaten good teams to get here. It shows that they are a good team and they can punish us. So I've been saying this for a while. We have to go there. Yes, we are Arsenal, but that pedigree alone is not enough. We have to really apply ourselves. We have to really have a strong performance from back to front, and it has to be a lot better. And you talk about Aubameyang, it's it's been a real low point for him and for Arsenal, because yeah, you mentioned we were really poor last season, but Aubameyang really carried us, and I don't know whether that's playing on his psyche or whatever. We've also mentioned this in the previous podcast. Aubameyang needs to step up now. He needs to. He has a better foundation behind him, so he needs to get into those positions, and he needs to make things happen for himself, because he can't just wait now and be given things on a platter. That has to change. His mentality has to change, and our performance will be better for it, because he is our key man. He's a goal scorer. And if he can't do that, I think Arteta has some decisions to make with regards to whoever plays in front, and um, whoever plays behind him as well, because I don't know how long these injuries will last of these players, the likes of Smith Rowe, Saka, Shaka. Yes, we need better, but they are who we have right now, and we need them back as soon as possible, because with them on the pitch, we've seen performances really shine through. So yeah, all in all, I think there's still a long way to go, but that long way starts on Thursday, and we have to do a lot better. There is a lot of room for improvement, given whatever we saw on Saturday was really bad. So the room for improvement is there, and we need to do that. That's the thing I want us to do. I want to see from our team, just the application of the players, because these players can do it. They just need to want to do it, and that's what I'll say. And I think I don't know if there's anything more to add because it's been frustrating and we want to see better. So hopefully we do see whatever's coming is better.
Well, um, who starts for you on Thursday? I mean, what's I mean, it's difficult to think what Mikel Arteta will do, but if you
Yeah,
had,
but mm,
yeah, just
sorry,
go
just
on.
continue.
I mean, like, who does do you keep with the same lineup? Do you change something about it? I mean, okay, let's put in the consideration that none of the players that were available on Saturday are available on Thursday. How do you change? Do you change the team at all? If you do, what do you bring? Who do you bring in?
Then I'd go back to what we've been using before, and whatever has worked before, and that is Luis back. Of course, I don't think he can come back, so I'd have no choice but to continue with Holding. And Bellerin on the right, we can't have Tierney again, so that's a bummer. So Cedric on the left. Partey, Shaka in midfield.
No, I'm saying, Ahmed, you don't have Shaka, you don't have
Mm,
Saka, you don't have Smith Rowe. The players that you had on Saturday are the
oh,
players that you
right,
have on
right.
Thursday. How would you
Okay,
change it, if at
okay,
all?
okay. So basically the same lineup, but I'd start with Aubameyang up top and have Lacazette as an option or off the bench, and then I'd put in Martinelli or William on the left, and
Okay.
Elneny for Seba. That's tricky, on paper and what they can do. Maybe I would start Elneny, but I don't know. I'm not sure about that bit. And on the back for the right back, I would start Bellerin, not Chambers.
Mm, Bellerin. What's going on there? I mean, he hasn't played a Premier League game since, was it
He's
Burnley?
missed three. Yeah, I think has he missed three in a row?
Yeah, he's
I'm not
not played
sure.
in those. So I mean, what's going on? He's played in all the Europa League games. So I think there's a lot going on that we don't understand. We just have to wait and see. But what we do know is that we need a better performance from the lads on Thursday. We need a win, and a big win at that. And we just hope that we are able to celebrate or a good, important win for us on Thursday. I'd just like to say before closing, I think we don't have any questions this week, so we're just going to have one parter. I just like to say before we close today's podcast, I do not care for Andy Townsend.
Yeah, that man was a mess when he was commentating. It was so frustrating. I don't think he had any idea what he was saying. He's just mouthing
Does
off
he
whatever
ever?
comes to
Does
his
he ever
mind,
though?
and uh, don't even get us started. Like we're gonna spend another 30 minutes bashing on Andy Townsend. Yeah, fuck
Pathetic.
him.
Pathetic, pathetic, and I honestly do not want to listen to him again. And I hope that we don't get him in any of our games. If we do, I think we need to just watch something else or put like Arabic commentary. We should be watching games in Arabic commentary, though.
Yeah,
Maybe it'll
Bain
make
Sports,
things
right?
better. I don't know.
Yeah,
Food for
maybe.
thought. Anyway, let's end it at that. I'd like to thank Ahmed for her joining us today, as always. Thank you to all our listeners for tuning in for this week's episode. We are, well, I shouldn't really apologize for that performance, but I'm sorry that you had to go through it. And hopefully, we'll be going through a good performance on Thursday against, hopefully, which is a good win against Slavia Prague. So, apart from that, just take care, guys. Coronavirus is still out there. Wear your mask, sanitize, keep your distance, and all will be well. Thank you, guys. See you next week. Kwaheri.
Bye bye.